please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. To those guests who've just joined us, welcome. Our next stop is the Magic Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching our station at the entrance to Main Street, USA, gateway to the 7 scene lands of the Magic Kingdom.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Monday Morning Monorail Podcast. This is Justin Monorail, and guess what? It's here. It is the wall-to-wall Haunted Mansion episode. That was supposed to be creepy, and it probably just came off as weird. I've got a full house of monorail co-pilots today, even more than we've ever had before. Well, no, we've been at 5 before. Okay, equal to the most we've ever had for this jam-packed, super-sized M3-4D. All M3-4D all the time. What does M3-4D stand for? It stands for Disney Deep Dive with the Dawes. So we can't have one of those unless we have a Dawes. And joining me today is cousin Dawes Monorail, Landon. Welcome to the show.
Always glad to be on the monorail, though it's a special occasion because I get to sit in the front car. Though since I am sitting in the front car, I have a very special name for a very special episode. My name is Landon Paul Thurl Doan Freeze Ravencroft's Monorail.
Second.
That is going to be really, really hard to change on my voter registration. By the way, vote November 6th.
Yeah.
Do it, you won't regret it. Vote.
Oh, you spoke next. Who are you?
Oh, I'm Minerva Mouse.
Welcome, Minerva Mouse. Minerva Mouse Monorail. Who's the giggling one over there?
I don't have a clever name. I'm just Sam.
Just Sam, and beside just Sam.
Chicken McNuggets.
Chicken McNuggets. Oh, my goodness.
Off to a hot start.
Garrett, Sam, Landon, McKenna. We're all here. This is great. And why? Because it's a special occasion. This is our extra creepy, super spooky Halloween episode. And it is a celebration of probably the greatest attraction in all of the Walt Disney World Resort.
We wrote it twice in the extra magic hours.
We did. Those are valuable hours, and we spent a lot of our time on the Haunted Mansion. So this episode, we are going to be talking Haunted Mansion nonstop, and I'm so excited that you're joining us. So first of all, why don't we get started at the very beginning? Like I usually do on an M3-4D, I like to kind of lay out what the attraction is that we're talking about. What is this ride? For those of you out there who may somehow you're listening to a Disney podcast and you don't know what the Haunted Mansion is.
How does that work?
It could happen. Theoretically, it's possible. It's a dark ride. It's an omni-mover. It goes through a haunted house. There's special effects. There's goofy songs. There's 999.
A what mover?
Omni-mover.
What?
That's the actual ride mechanism in the Haunted Mansion.
I didn't know that.
Same as Spaceship Earth, or as you like to call it,
The Epcot ball.
exactly.
I thought you said mommy.
The mommy mover.
I mean, it could be a mommy mover.
They are
and a daddy
typically
mover.
mommy and daddy. And,
I do feel moved when I ride it.
Oh yeah. Moved to Chilling Tears. No,
It's actually a lot of fun.
it is a lot of fun. Let me ask that question to begin with. Is this ride scary, McKenna?
No.
It's not. You never felt a little nervous
Maybe
or
when
anxious?
I was younger and I cried. But that was because some guy talked in my ear. so.
Well, that's just unsettling.
I know.
By the way, I'm really sorry when I did that. That was an accident.
Oh, you should be. I'm still not
Wait,
over it.
so are you talking about the ghost host? The disembodied voice kind of creeped you out?
I didn't like him talking in my... No. A guy, like...
like a cast member?
A cast member whispered something in my ear before I got on. I'm like, don't die. And I was like,
Don't
God.
No, to be fair, you could say that on most attractions. Like,
don't die.
Like, welcome to It's a Small World. Don't die.
That's appropriate.
Yeah, that feels more appropriate if we're being completely honest.
Whenever I first went to Disney World, I was kind of nervous when it got steep.
Well, I will say about you were nervous about just about everything we got on.
Yeah, no kidding.
This one had ghosts.
Did you feel a sense of foreboding as we went on to the Haunted Mansion? Were you scared?
I mean, I was really nervous to get on, but once I was on, it wasn't scary.
Okay, you just had a good time.
Yeah.
It's fun. We keep it light, and the Haunted Mansion does a good job of that.
Kind of.
You're a chicken, Sam. Did you ever feel scared of the Haunted Mansion?
Maybe whenever I didn't know what it was actually going to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The first time, so McKenna and I went on it whenever her and I went to Disney by ourselves, and she was scared, and she made me feel pretty scared too, and I was already scared, so I didn't need her freaking out as well.
That does make a difference. Like, if the people that you're with are generally freaked out, like, it's going to affect you a little bit.
I feel like I need to retract my statement now, because when you get up in the attic, that's terrifying. It's gotten worse.
Peaks. Yeah. I
It's
think
worse.
the terror peaks in the attic when you meet the bride.
It really does. And once you hit to the graveyard, it's just like a ghost party.
Yeah.
And
but, like,
they're singing and dancing.
Is it just me, or has the bride changed?
She
'Cause
has.
I remember her
It's
not
changed.
being so intense.
She's worse. Yeah, they've added some effects, and we'll get into that
All
as we
right,
go. But yes,
sorry.
the bride is more intense than she used to be.
Yes.
It's me as a bride.
I totally didn't notice this change.
I did, because I was like, oh.
They do that. What do they call it? Projection mapping on her face now.
Okay.
Yeah, and
The
she's
thing
saying
she says.
she's like, "Here comes the bride," and she pulls out a butcher knife.
Oh, yeah, the butcher knife. That's right.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's different now.
Wait, but that didn't happen before.
No,
No.
it was a
okay.
much more passive. Actually, they downplayed. If I
was a
remember
lot
it, they used to
subtler.
downplay. Yeah, the wedding was a much more subtle story than it is now.
Yeah, they definitely come to embrace that more in the most recent iterations.
Yeah.
I think McKenna's an elephant.
Why?
Because she didn't forget.
Ah,
Oh, thanks, Mom. You don't have to comment on that.
McElephant.
I'm the McElephant in the room.
So, Landon, you have notoriously had goosebumps going on to these scary rides. See hashtag alien encounter. So, did Haunted Mansion freak you out when you were little?
The first episode that I joined y'all on, we talked about, I ended up naming this as my favorite attraction in any of the Disney properties, and it's kind of a late addition, because even in that episode, I did say growing up, it's like, I was a little wiener kid. I was scared of everything. I didn't want to get on a haunted mansion ride.
Wiener
Yes. Okay, now that I hear it, had to be a better way to phrase it. I apologize.
This is a family podcast.
Trying to keep it PG. Your dad knows how hard that is for me, but like going on it as an adult, it's like at least for me, it's like, yeah, it was kind of creepy, but at the same time, not necessarily anything to be scared about. But I do think you're right. The front half of the ride is more quote unquote scary than the last half of the ride.
It is. And we're going to get into why.
I know why.
Yeah,
Ooh, I do.
there's a strong reason for that. Like, it's
I know.
not just I've got a sense that the first half's scary, the second half's silly. It absolutely is, because it's kind of a stitched together story.
So they don't have children leaving with tears in their eyes.
That's not why.
No, this
because
isn't extraterrestrial.
Because there have been rides, day one attractions, that kids were definitely crying coming off of them.
Cough, thunder.
No. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Snow White's Scary Adventure.
They had to put scary in parentheses because, like, yeah, maybe we went a little bit too far.
Yeah, those were dark. In fact, in both of you, you ended up dead on those rides. At least you don't do that in the Haunted
Not
Mansion.
in Snow White.
You did too. At the end of that ride, you ended up dead.
No,
The
you
big
ended up in the
gym.
happy area.
No. Now.
Now.
On the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, that's how it is now. In the old,
I'm
you should
talking about,
listen to our podcast.
Hey, listen up.
We do this podcast.
I went on the Snow White scary ride with Mom.
Right after they lightened it up. Originally,
Oh, yeah, the
the
light.
witch killed you at
What
the end
the
of that
crap?
ride.
Dropped
Yeah,
a
she-
boulder on you.
That terrified me.
I
Anyway,
saw
so-
I saw both versions on YouTube, and yet the first one you die,
Yeah.
You're in the mines and she drops a big gem on you.
And you're followed by some manic, crazy looking witch for the entire ride coming out of every dark crevice.
This one was, that's why I was saying the Haunted Mansion was not the scariest ride in Walt Disney World. So
let's take it back to the old days. I'm ready to crap myself in Disney.
McKenna.
Well,
you probably already have.
I will say,
you're right.
I will say Tower of Terror doesn't give you any kind of relief in that ride. Like, it's scary throughout. Mm-hmm. And the end of it is you falling an unknown amount of times in an elevator. So there's no reprieve in the Tower of Terror.
Well, it's a Twilight Zone thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing. Go ahead, though, Dad.
It is.
Let's talk about Haunted Mansion.
So you were asking me questions about Omnimover. That was a new phrase for you. If you don't like Omnimover, you can call the ride vehicle by its nickname, if you'd like.
Oh, what is that?
The nickname is Doom Buggy.
Now it makes sense. Now I'm putting together the pieces.
I knew about that.
Okay, Garrett.
DOOM?
Doom.
Or
Doom.
DUM?
Like the movie The Rock starred in. Doom.
Yeah,
Like
Dune.
the game.
You got to get the spices.
DUNE?
No, DOOM.
Oh, okay.
Who's on first?
Yeah.
The Doomer.
They could make a ride that's Doom, and it's still called the Doom Buggy.
Hey,
They could.
Michael
do that.
Eisner could finally get his very adult ride.
As we mentioned, this was a day one attraction at the Walt Disney World Resort. So the Disneyland version opened in 1969, just a few years before the opening of the Magic Kingdom. And one of the cool things, Disney was actually thinking ahead, knowing that they were going to put this in the Magic Kingdom park. So they actually created every single part, every prop, every effect that they were going to be putting in Disneyland. They duplicated it so they could use it in Magic Kingdom. So, efficiency. Mm-hmm. Made sense.
Okay.
It was also interesting, don't mean to jump in. Originally, it wasn't going to be, a ride that you get on and it moves you. It was going to be a walking tour.
Yeah.
And that ran, and Imagineers realized that was going to end up running into, creating traffic jams.
Bottlenecks.
Exactly.
Yeah. And one of the things that they're always thinking about with these rides, and knowing that they have these huge crowds in Disney World and Disneyland, is that they've got to be people eaters.
Get them in, get them out.
They've got to move them through. So if this was going to be one of those things in a walkthrough, you can't really control how fast people are moving through it. And especially in like scary things or where there's cool effects like we have in the Haunted Mansion, people might linger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely stick around at the dining thing.
Right.
Because I want to see all the stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And even when we went through 2 times, I was like, wait a second, I didn't see that last time.
You can't ever see everything. I try so hard. I try to open my eyes as wide as possible, keep your neck on a swivel. But one of the cool things about the Omnimover, the Doom Buggy, is that they can use that ride vehicle to control the story and try to make sure that they only show you what they want you to see. So, because it's pretty neat, it can move 360 degrees. So, as you're moving through, they turn you towards the things they want you to see. One of my favorite things or uses of that technique is they turn you towards a wall. And as you're looking at that wall, there's a giant shadow hand that moves across the wall, being projected from behind you. And I just think that was a really cool idea. I mean, there's a lot of cool things, but that's one of the examples of them using that ability to control your perspective to their advantage. I don't like
that because I want to see everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's why you have to ride it like 7 times.
You do, over and over.
Mm-hmm. Just use up all your fast passes.
But the problem is when you ride it again, you end up looking at the same things you already saw because you're like, oh, I remember that cool thing.
And it's making you look that way.
Yeah. I mean, probably if it turned around the other way, when it has you looking certain ways, you'd turn around, you'd see maybe some behind the magic kind of stuff you don't want to see.
Yeah, probably ruin the illusion.
I want to see the behind the magic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means you have to be an Imagineer.
Yeah, go get a job at Disney.
I need to be a Ninja Turtle.
Yes, be a Ninja Turtle.
Are they hiring those at Disney?
You can only hope.
But you're right, Landon. The history of this ride goes back a very long time, and it really did start before they even had an idea that they were going to create the Disneyland park. Walt and his first group of Imagineers had an idea to create a park just across the street from the studios, and it was going to have a main street. It was going to have some greenways. It was going to have some nice, cool areas. But one of the concepts they came up with, they actually sketched a creepy house in black and white. And the concept was there would be a little street off of Main Street that would actually lead you past a little cemetery and then take you to this creepy house that was just off of Main Street. So it's something, the idea for that has been there for a very long time. Just the idea that they wanted a creepy haunted house, right? And the original concept was going to be a walkthrough. they had this idea that they were going to bring in all these different effects, basically like things that you would see if you went to like a magic show kind of thing. And they were going to call it a museum. What was it?
Museum of the Weird.
Museum of the Weird.
That was really one of the things that Imagineer Raleigh Crump really, grabbed initiative by the horns. And I thought this was interesting. In the initial pitch meeting for this, the other Imagineers told Raleigh, it's like, dude, Walt's not going to go for this. This stuff is just too out there. And then after they gave the pitch, all of Raleigh's stuff was on the table behind Walt, and they could tell Walt wasn't really sold by any of this. He turned around, looked at these, and at least according to legend, he asked, "What are these?" And Raleigh explained them to Walt, and then 24 hours later, Walt shows up is in Raleigh's office when Raleigh gets there, still wearing the same clothes, and he says, "I can't get these things out of my mind, so we need to do something with these." Yeah. And it was, like you said, originally it was going to be that Museum of the Weird. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that never came to fruition, but at the same time, a lot of those, unique and exotic-looking models that were made are still featured in the Haunted Mansion still today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool how much of it stuck and actually came to fruition. Mm-hmm. While they changed kind of the concept and how it works, a lot of the original concept exists. And I wanted to mention, I couldn't find it at the time, but I've got it now. The man who developed that original sketch, his name is Harper Goff, and he was the one that really launched like the whole idea of this spook house that they were going to create in their park. After Walt was sold on the idea, he actually assigned Ken Anderson to create the story. How were they going to fit this in the park in the way that made it work? So the idea was hatched that they would create kind of a New Orleans themed land that would be kind of a transition between Frontierland and Adventureland. So
that would have been awesome.
Well, that's what you have in Disneyland. So the Haunted Mansion that's in Disneyland is supposed to be a New Orleans mansion.
They could make a Tiana Haunted Mansion, Princess and the
because
Frog.
that voodoo guy is terrifying.
Dr. Facilier.
Yeah.
He is awesome.
Yeah. So the concept was Ken Anderson, he studied New Orleans, old plantations. He came up with this idea of a manor that had overgrown weeds, dead trees, bats, boarded up windows. But Walt Disney didn't really like the idea of having a rundown building in the parks. And so that's why it ended up, getting the look that it has today, which actually looks like an old plantation house, but it looks like it's in good shape from the outside.
Well, and originally, at least the idea that they were going to go with was Walt says, "We'll take care of the building on the outside. The ghosts will take care of the building on the inside."
Exactly.
Or the ghosts are just really good handymen, and they know how to take care of a house.
Up,
yeah.
I mean, it is 999 of them, so you'd think somebody knows how to swing a ghost hammer.
Exactly.
Obviously.
I thought it was pretty interesting to find out that one of Walt's inspirations why he really wanted to go with this was that he was fascinated by the Winchester Mystery House.
Yeah.
I love the Winchester Mystery House.
How cool is that?
I'm obsessed with the Winchester Mystery House.
If you're not familiar with the Winchester Mystery House, I would go look it up because it is really fascinating. It's this home in San Jose, California, and the owner
never stopped building.
She believed that if she continued to build that house, she would never die.
There are a lot of theories on that.
And she built stairs that went to nowhere.
Literally nowhere.
There's one, it's a door, you open it, and it's a drop to the bushes outside.
Yeah, to the exterior,
Oh, I want to visit that house so bad.
You can.
Yeah, you
I
can.
know, I want
It's
to.
in San Jose, California.
I have to go all the way to California, though. That's the problem.
I remember that name from somewhere, and I remember the story, but I didn't connect to.
Yeah, Ghost Adventures is probably where we saw it, or maybe
BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yes, it was
name drop.
It
I
was
watched
that
it all the time.
That was where I
made
heard it.
Garrett watch like all of them.
Well,
with
I
me.
liked it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm flattered.
So in 1961, they actually announced in 1963 that the Haunted Mansion was going to open in Disneyland. So construction began a year later, and they actually completed the exterior in 1963. It's crazy to think that this didn't open until 69.
I know.
So it sat empty for a very long time.
Ooh, so real ghosts could go in.
Basically,
Exactly, yeah.
I guess given the ghost time to move in.
They were always accepting applications up until that point.
Yeah. But
Makes sense.
There were a lot of other reasons that kind of led to it, and one of it was Walt's death in 66.
Yeah, it's a bummer. He never got to see either the Disneyland or the Walt Disney World Haunted Mansion, done and built.
That's right, yeah. It's unfortunate. He didn't get to see a lot of his plans come to pass.
Wait a second. Mm-hmm. So the Haunted Mansion
He lives in the Haunted
existed
Mansion.
before the movie? Yes.
Is that a joke? That's got to be a joke. Are you joking? Are you not joking?
Yeah, the movie came out in the 60s.
Are you talking about the Eddie Murphy movie?
Right.
Yeah.
But
Shrek, I'm a donkey.
That movie came out in 2003.
Which, as we all know, that's what this is based on.
But
Having Jennifer Tilly in it, too.
It's a cool attraction based on an Eddie Murphy movie.
Shrek, it's a ghost.
I didn't make it to the Haunted Mansion until 2000 or to Disney until 2006 or 7.
Okay.
And I thought the ride was created because of the movie. I didn't
Did you wonder where Eddie Murphy was?
Though, to be fair, every time I go to Disney, I also ask the same thing. Where's Eddie Murphy?
Well, anyways.
Well, so this is similar to
He's in
Pirates, right?
DreamWorks.
It's possible that people ride Pirates today for the first time and think it's based on the movie.
I thought it was based on the movie. Pirates wasn't based on the movie.
No.
No, they created the movie a long time after Pirates
They
launched.
adapted it
And
to
actually,
the movie.
by the way, Haunted Mansion inspired Pirates. So the ride inspired the ride.
Well, my mind is blown right now.
The things you learn on the Monday Morning Monorail.
I know.
I mean, I can't be the only person who didn't realize this.
No, I'm saying, I'm sure that that's the case, that people go to Disney World now and they're like, oh, they made this ride after the movie came out. But especially because, at least in Pirates' case, the movie has influenced the ride.
Oh, very much so. Jack Sparrow's all over that thing. And,
Yeah.
and I want to say it's like, you know what? They obviously don't have a Eddie Murphy animatronic
Yeah.
running around, but
Thank
I do
goodness.
want to say after the movie came out, they might have done some updating to the, floating orb with Madame Leota's
Leota.
head in it.
It's not...
I don't think it's Jennifer Tilly.
It's not Jennifer Tilly. It's still the original Leota. But yeah, maybe they did. Yeah, that's interesting. So we've talked about how as you ride through this ride, it kind of feels like it's got a split personality disorder. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Ew.
So there were a couple Imagineers that were working on this ride, Mark Davis and Claude Coates, both contributing ideas. So essentially, Claude he was a background artist and he wanted a scary ride.
Tag yourself, I'm Claude.
He wanted it to be like moody with like endless hallways, corridors of doors, characterless environments. Now, Mark Davis, on the other hand, was an animator and character designer, and he wanted it to be a silly ride full of gags. So basically, they came up with their concepts, and at the end of the day, Ex Atencio, who was another Imagineer, got involved and basically just smashed the two together. So the first half of the ride was really the concept that Claude came up with, and the second half, once you get out of the attic, was all Mark Davis. That's why it feels like it suddenly takes a weird turn.
Mm-hmm. And our listeners might recognize the name of Claude Coates in his love of the scary stuff, because he was one of the head guys behind Snow White's Scary Adventures. So
Once again, I am Claude.
Yeah. So dude had some darkness in his soul.
I like it. That's kind of cool.
He had some stuff he needed to work out, and he just decided to do it on, children's attractions.
When hinges creak in doorless chambers, and strange and frightening sounds echo through the halls, whenever candlelights flicker, where the air is deathly still, that is the time when ghosts are present, practicing their terror with ghoulish delight.
You know that we were talking about the Museum of the Weird concept. One of the things that, even though they changed it to a ride, the Museum of the Weird still existed, and they were actually going to make it like an additional thing in Disneyland, but it was going to be a restaurant. I am really sad we never got a Museum of the Weird restaurant.
That in American Tale?
A Museum of the Weird? I don't know.
Yeah, because that's where they get the, that's where they make the giant dog, right? It's a giant dog.
Oh, maybe.
It's a rat.
It's
Is it a
The big scary thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a rat. It's
Well,
supposed to be a giant
They
rat.
were in a museum of the weird.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a rat, so the cats are scared of the rats.
Okay.
Someone needs to help me out on that one.
Fact check McKenna.
Yeah, hit
Because
us up,
I'm
Twitter.
fairly
Fact
certain
check.
they hung out in a museum of the weird.
That's possible. I'm not going to dispute you on it. Moving along, one of the things that does a great job of connecting the two, because it's very possible that you could feel like the ride, because it kind of does have that change, is a little bit broken and doesn't have a nice continuous story that's glued together. But one of the things that does that for you is that throughout the ride, you have a companion riding along. And that, of course, is your ghost host.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion. I am your host, your ghost host. Our tour begins here in this gallery. Here where you see paintings of some of our guests as they appeared in their corruptible, mortal state.
Voiced by Paul Frees.
Yeah, Landon already mentioned Paul Frees does a great job voicing the ghost host. And really, when I think of Haunted Mansion, one of the first things that comes to my mind is his narration in the stretching room.
The stretching room. I mean, like, that might be, for my money, the best way to start a Disney attraction.
Yeah.
And it's even before you get on the ride itself.
You're right. We were talking about pre-shows when we were doing Alien Encounter, and I said Alien Encounter might have the best pre-show. I totally forgot about Haunted Mansion.
Yeah. Alien Encounter doesn't have a stretching room yet.
Yeah. The stretching room is hands down. So we haven't even really talked about, before you get on the ride, they usher you into a room with no windows and no doors. And, of course, that's the stretching room. And as you move in, you notice that something odd is happening to the paintings on the wall. And that is, of course, they look like they're one picture, but as they stretch, it reveals that those pictures have a little bit something more sinister going on in each one of them.
I would like to have those pictures in my house, and when I invite my guest over, I'm like, hello, look at my beautiful pictures, and I press a button on the wall while they're looking, and they start moving, and people are screaming. The best dinner party ever.
Best dinner party.
Because I'm the only one who's left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Think it through.
You could also have a man that won't stop reciting the whole thing whenever you're standing.
So you can go ahead and tell that story if you'd like.
Well, I don't.
Our last trip.
What's the name of the guy who says it?
The ghost host.
The ghost host gives this whole speech at the beginning of, while you're in the stretch room, and he's talking, and of course this great guy.
Some rando in the room with us
decides to say the whole entire thing.
Recites it word for word, right along, as if it was a karaoke performance.
I was like, shut it.
It was very frustrating.
Because I totally get it. Fans. Everybody's a fan. It's a great ride. But
you mumble it to yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to say it out loud. And he was saying it loud.
As loud as the ghost host.
Yeah, he wanted everyone to know that he knew every word.
He was looking around making sure people were listening to him.
Yeah.
Wow, he sounds like a barrel of monkeys.
Yeah, barrel of nothing but miserable.
Here's a fun fact for you.
Autumn.
I'm going to spin this on its ear. So, did you know
Yes.
Disneyland also has a stretching room? You knew that?
No.
Okay, it does. Just like Magic Kingdom. But there are differences between the two, and that is one of them, the floor drops down. The other one, the roof raises. One of them's an elevator. The other one, the roof goes up. Do you know which is which?
No.
So, based on your experience
guess.
in the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World, which one do you think is the elevator that goes down, and which one does the roof go up?
The elevator that goes down is Disney World because it has, I feel like it's because it has all the going up and down throughout the ride. So I feel like there needs to be more room than just the house, which makes sense to me. And Disneyland is going up, and that's just me.
Okay. What do you think, Garrett?
I agree with McKenna.
So you think it's an elevator down?
Yeah, I feel like the paintings stayed where they were.
Okay. What do you think?
I'll go with the kids.
Okay. Everybody 100% voting for elevator down. Do you know the answer?
I do not, but I'm gonna join in with the choir.
Okay.
Over
I feel like
here.
I'm wrong.
You all are incorrect.
Dang it!
Well, podcast over. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Never agree to me.
So here's the thing. One thing you might know about Disneyland is that it's a little strapped for land. And because of that, they've got a very strict border, especially where the train goes around, the train berm. So in order to get people underneath the berm, they had to lower people in an elevator, and then they go under the berm into the Haunted Mansion. At Walt Disney World, the roof goes up.
I feel like this is all McKenna's fault.
Yeah, let's blame McKenna Monorail.
Well, okay, it's not my fault. I always tell you not to agree with me.
You were wrong. It's totally your fault.
I'm wrong most of the time. You know this.
So,
Accurate.
well, the funny thing about that is somehow I always knew that there was a difference, but I never knew which one was which until doing my research today.
Disneyland?
Yeah, you knew that.
Man, the just disappointment in Sam Monorail's eyes. Is,
I
are
knew
you going to
that.
be okay?
I just don't get it.
But I will tell you, before I knew the answer, I thought the floor lowered in the Magic Kingdom.
It makes sense to me because it's above. Do we go down a slope?
It goes up and down. The ride, once you're on the Omnimover, you go up the stairs into the attic.
Down to the sliding room. It's just a straight shot, right?
Into the stretching room? You walk right into it.
You're saying the floor goes up?
No. No, the ceiling
ceiling.
rises.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a great work of perception right there.
Yeah.
This obviously is taking me a long time.
That's okay.
You're still looking for Eddie Murphy, I understand.
It's okay. Yeah. I mean, it would be funny if he was there. What about those kids? They were really funny.
The kids are funny.
Why are they not in the ride?
They could be in there. I'd be
They
okay
could
with
just
that.
put them in a chest and have them shake around. That's
They
like,
might be in a chest.
Boom.
Maybe they are, and we just don't know it.
They can
You
just
heard it
shake
here
around.
first. You're totally on the run.
I will tell you, as a kid, the stretching room and the narration and the walking to the Doom buggy was the scariest part for me. Because once you're on the Doom buggy, you could close your eyes if you really and don't close your eyes
Yeah,
and
I was
don't try
gonna
to
say,
hide.
yeah.
But you could, and then the ride's gonna just happen, right? I have always been more scared of the idea of walking through a haunted house because you have to do it to yourself.
Yeah.
And actually, so at Walt Disney World, you go through the stretching room, and suddenly, thunderclap. We actually see Master Gracie for the first time hanging by the neck
Had a bad day.
from the roof. If you look up, you're going to see Master Gracie hanging. And then you walk to the Doom buggies, and there's not much to see. At Disneyland, you actually walk by the busts. The singing busts are actually in the queue, and you walk by a few other things.
And some of those other things is throughout the ride, sometimes there will be lightning flashes, and some of the portraits will change, into something like one lady lounging on a couch is now a cat lady or something like that.
Yeah.
That's some of the stuff you actually walk by at Disneyland. Where Walt Disney World, I mean, that's just part of the ride.
Yep.
Wait, you've been to Disneyland too?
I have, but I didn't get to ride the Disneyland version of this because, as we previously established, I was a little wiener kid, so I wasn't going to get on a haunted ride.
I forgot
Little
about you
wiener
being
kid.
a wiener.
Yeah. So anyway, you come out of the stretching room, you get on the Doom buggy, and you immediately start touring the house. And as we mentioned, the first part is where you get to see some of the really creepy stuff. Some of the images that always stick with me are the piano that has the shadow that's just playing the piano. I love that effect. I think that's super cool. I like the skeleton that's trying to get out of the casket.
Yeah.
I love the breathing doors.
The breathing doors are really cool.
Where is this at?
The Haunted
In
Mansion.
the Haunted Mansion. You remember this ride
Space
called the
Mountain.
Haunted Mansion?
No, is it when you're
Epcot
walking?
Mall.
No, when you're riding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about once you're on the Doom buggy and your ghost host has told you, I will lower the bar for you. All that's already happened.
Yeah.
You're riding along. What effects do you like?
There's a dining room scene.
There is a dining room, the ballroom.
He's
The
swinging
grand
on the
ballroom.
chandelier. I've looked at every single ghost in there now, and he's my favorite. He's the party ghost. He swings on the chandelier.
What did you like, Garrett?
Whenever I'm just gonna say something. Whenever I first wrote it, I was gonna lower the bar
Yeah, and then you got yelled at by the ghost host.
because I was nervous. So I'm gonna lower this now.
Yeah.
Stood up.
Do you know it was intentional to make the Doom buggies the capacity only like 2 to 3 people because the idea is that it makes it like you're wandering through a haunted house with just a small group. Yeah, that's on purpose.
That's interesting.
Makes it a little creepier. Goes with the story. I also really like in the hallway where the breathing doors are. I like the knockers.
Oh, when the wallpaper changes and it has eyes.
Oh, the
in it.
eyes. Yeah,
That's good.
that's cool. There are a lot of the endless hallway with the floating
Oh,
candelabra.
that's so cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, I do remember that.
Yep, that's a good one.
I like the animatronic of the guy that's walling himself inside the wall. I dig that.
just the library, like
Yeah.
every little thing in the library.
Yep.
The face, like they move with you. The books kind of move around.
Yep. Do you remember any of this, Sam?
I feel
Were
like
you there for
haven't- I feel like I've never rode this ride. I don't know what's wrong with me.
I've taken every little detail every time.
I do remember the pictures changing.
Yeah.
And those are some really cool pieces of artwork, even before the lightning flash. Like there's the one featuring the pirate ship. I really dig that one. That one's cool.
Hey, let's talk about Madame Leota for a second. Let's go into the seance room. This
I
is
remember
another
that
one of those
one.
creepy scenes. Actually, this one is a little bit like unnerving to see the disembodied head of Madame Leota in the crystal ball doing the seance.
that never really affected me because I saw the Haunted Mansion, and I was like, oh yeah,
Oh, right. The movie that this ride was based
yes,
on.
obviously. When she's in the car, I'm like, oh, this is funny. She's just that funny lady that sits in the car.
Her name is Jennifer
Yeah.
Tilly.
Jennifer
yeah.
Tilly.
But Jennifer Tilly is not on this ride. Madame Leota is voiced by Eleanor Audley, and you might recognize her voice as Maleficent, Sleeping Beauty, and the evil stepmother in
Yeah.
Cinderella.
What? She's like epic.
Seriously, the voice cast on this ride is amazing.
It really is.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty strong for sure. And I was going to also mention the voice of Madame Leota. Just because it's a very appropriate name. Is this something that you were familiar with? Anyone? The name is actually an Imagineer, Leota Toombs.
What?
That was her real name.
That's an amazing name.
Very appropriate.
She yeah,
Can I
yeah,
change
Toombs.
my name?
She was a model building Imagineer. Yeah.
Mick McKenna Toombs.
Yeah.
Mick Toombs.
Make Kenna.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's the face. She's just the face. She's not the voice. You said the voice. My bad. She plays the face. Yeah.
But hey, I mean, that's an awesome way to be forever, like, immortalized at Disney.
Yeah. You know, I already mentioned Master Gracie being kind of one of the key members of this story. And, of course, the whole story that's kind of being told to you, and now, as we mentioned, it's a little more emphasized, is this idea of love lost, right? It's you've got the bride who's always
Psycho
waiting for
bride.
the groom. Mm-hmm. Psycho bride. But Master Gracie was actually named after one of the guys that was involved in creating visual effects, which was Yale Gracie. Yeah, along with Raleigh Crump. They were the ones that were in charge of the visual effects for the attraction. So, as a tribute to Yale Gracie, that they named one of the characters from the ride Master Gracie.
That's really cool.
So after leaving the seance room, you move along, and this is where you actually enter the Grand Hall. You've mentioned this a couple of times, Sam. This is where they've got the Pepper's Ghost effect, where you're looking in the room, it looks empty. Yeah, but then all of a sudden it's a swinging wake, could I say?
And the pictures in there, they change, and there are two guys, and one's in one picture, one's in the other, and they turn to each other and they do a
Yeah, they have a duel.
shoot-off duel.
That's so cool.
I did ride the ride.
Yeah, you've been there.
I just don't remember much.
McKenna remembers the ghost blowing out the birthday cakes. The candles on the birthday cake.
Maybe Happy Death Day.
Yeah,
The
happy
one-
day.
The one where they have a duel.
Yep.
That's the only one I remember because that's the one I focus on every time.
It's really a neat effect. I like the guy swinging on the chandelier too. I always
Yeah.
see that. And of
He's
course
so much fun.
Of course
I don't like
I've seen
Sia.
that too.
Of course, the waltzing ghosts always grab my eye because of the movement.
Yeah.
So after you move out of the Grand Hall, then you proceed up into the attic, and you're seeing wedding portraits, mementos, and this is where we get to have our encounter with the bride. And you hear the beating heart, and actually when you look at the bride, her heart's glowing.
The bride's
I
like
think
the
she's
coolest
lovely.
part.
She
so
is really cool.
Yeah, she's lovely. She actually has really good intentions. It's just
It's called Murder.
sometimes people just make you crazy.
I mean, maybe on the first
sounds
time
like
she had good
something the bride
intentions,
would
but
say,
after like the
"Watch
third
out."
or fourth one, it's like, I'm going to have to start questioning her motives.
She is. I feel like she has a nickname besides just the bride.
Black Widow.
Yeah, I was thinking like the widower or something.
Because, I mean, the
Because
story...
she's had several husbands.
The story that it tells, don't we see at least 4 portraits of her and her previous husbands?
Yeah.
In the attic, like right before she sends you on your
She's
trip.
a serial killer.
I bet she has a lot of life insurance money.
Well, a house that big ain't going to pay for itself.
I know.
Yeah. After we pass the bride, that's when we bust out of the attic and we're trying to escape the house. And now we are going through the graveyard. And that's when Grim Grinning Ghost kicks into full effect. That's where we really
I love
get
that song
Yeah.
so much.
Yep. And of course, I'm going to be rocking that throughout this podcast. You're going to be hearing that song throughout.
Garrett should sing it.
I'm not gonna sing it.
2, 3, 4, go Garrett.
But there's some pretty cool stuff in here. And, you know, we talked about it before, how this ride doesn't really have jump scares. If anything ever gets close to it, it's in the graveyard, because occasionally you'll see, like, heads popping up behind
Oh,
tombstones.
those always get me. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
the skeletons are like moving around.
I have to prepare myself for the popping heads, but then I'm like distracted by malnourished animals.
Yeah, the dog.
I'm like-
the poor little dog
I'm
with,
like-
with the caretaker.
Yeah.
Oh no!
He needs a sandwich.
Oh,
Yeah.
poor guy.
Sandwich.
He needs Mickey Mouse ice cream.
Yep. This is where we see the bus singing Grim Grinning Ghost. They're out there, the barbershop quartet ghosts. Anything else you wanted to mention that stands out in the graveyard? I remember seeing like the light effect that have all the like stream of spirits that are like flying out of the graveyard. That stands out to me.
The one that stands out from me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might be a little bit ahead, is the hitchhiking ghost. The three ghosts trying to catch a ride.
That's as we exit the graveyard. We're actually headed for the exit, and then we get warned by our ghost host. We didn't sign up for this. A ghost is going to follow us home.
Hey, I'm all for it. Let them come.
So this effect used to be different. They used the Pepper's ghost effect essentially a little bit different way, but you turn towards mirrors, and then it looks like a ghost is like sitting in your doom buggy with you. Usually sitting on you, because if you've got three people, it was sitting on top of somebody. But now it's different, and the ghost, like they use some really cool digital effects, and the ghost will like pull your head off and stuff like that.
Swap it around, yeah.
That's pretty. It's really cool.
And the mirrors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that effect has gotten even better. It's much cooler now.
Sometimes I forget that I rode this ride until something comes back to me.
Well, and speaking of improved technology, do we want to go ahead and bring up the box hat ghost? The mythical?
Yeah, but that's only Disneyland. We can talk about it. It's something you won't see at Walt Disney World, but yeah, I mean, you can talk about it if you'd like.
Well, it's just, it's one of those things, the box hat ghost was there. It was there. There's picture proof. It was there during the opening days of the Haunted Mansion in Disneyland, but for whatever reason, technology... It
wasn't
didn't
great.
work, and it wasn't great. And when it did work, it worked about half the time. So they scrapped it and it became that kind of like a myth, a legend. Yeah. And then they brought it back for the 60th anniversary of Disneyland.
I think 50th.
50th, yeah. Sorry, getting ahead of myself, but I think that's cool and how it's kind of become an icon of the ride and just synonymous with the ride. I think that's really cool.
It is pretty cool. Yeah, there was always the debate of was it there, wasn't it there, you know, that sort of thing. And I never saw it because when I went to Disneyland, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
So.
And one real quick difference between Disneyland and Walt Disney, going back to the ballroom, have you ever noticed, I guess if you haven't been on the ride itself, if you watched in like video walkthroughs or whatever, in one point in the glass, there is a spider web, a rubber spider web on one of the panels. Do you know how it got there?
No.
During one ride through, a guest pulled out a gun and shot through the pane glass. Window. Yeah, like pulled out a gun, fired a bullet into the attraction. So the Imagineers realized it was going to cost just way more money because, I mean, the way they get the effect, you see part of the glass panel on top, but there's a whole nother panel below. So that would have been a very costly fix. So what they did was they just put a rubber spider web on it and a rubber spider.
Wow.
So if you're ever out on the left coast and get on Haunted Mansion, keep an eye out for that.
That's crazy. I did not know that. As you're passing, you get past the hitchhiking ghost, and then you're on your way back up and into the mortal world. One of the things you see is a tiny little bride model, and she's saying very disturbing things to you, like, hurry back, and make sure to bring your death certificate, and that sort of thing. That's one of the things that, like, a little thing at the end that was a little creepy. It was like, Claude got a little extra there at the end.
That's because Claude's the winner here.
Yeah. So some updates. In 2007, Walt Disney World Haunted Mansion reopened and included an update for the foyer's portrait, new sound, visual effects, audio effects in the stretching room, and a new endless staircase scene. And then in 2011, they actually introduced the interactive queue. We haven't really played around much with the interactive queue because typically we have fast passes. So, have you?
Yes, I have. The last time I went to Walt Disney World, I did not have a fast pass for the Haunted Mansion, so I had to stand in line, but the time really flew by because the part of the queue is interactive. I mean, there's at one point where you come across like a stone piano, and some of the notes you can plunk out, and you'll hear noises. There's a stone bookshelf that is, as you push a book in, more will pop out.
Nice.
So you keep pushing them in, they keep popping out. Some of the busts, I believe, the tombstone of Madame Leota, her face is on it. And if you watch and pay attention every now and then, the face on this tombstone will open its eyes, look around real quick, and then shut them.
I think you're just crazy.
I mean, yes, I'm not disagreeing that, but in this case, I did do some homework on this.
Yeah.
And another interesting thing in the queue, it's not really part of the interactive one, but it's another difference between Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Originally, in part of the queue, there was an unfinished pipe kind of sticking out of the ground with a rivet on it, and Disney fans started to make the story, oh, that must be the ring of the bride. ride.
Yep.
And people kept, perpetuating that myth to the point where Disney's like, you know what? That's a good idea. So in one of the renovations, they went back and actually changed it to look like a wedding ring.
Yep. Yeah, it is pretty cool. Other fun facts that I've got for you. Speaking voices. So we already talked about Thurl Ravenscroft.
He's great.
He's one of the singers of Grim Grinning Ghost, but you would also know him as Tony the Tiger and the singer of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool then.
Yeah, he's a legend in voice acting.
He's a
I
cool
really
dude.
love that song because of that voice.
And his name is just awesome.
It is a cool
Thurl
name.
Ravenscroft.
Really cool. He sounds
I
like
want to
he
go
should
around
be
and
in-
steal their last names. I could be the bride and steal people's last names.
You're really crazy.
Man, this podcast just took a turn.
Did you know that the
Watch
three hitchhiking ghosts have names?
Really?
Yep. They are Gus, Ezra, and Phineas.
Who is who?
Gus is the short one with the ball and chain. Ezra is the tall skeletal one with the bowler hat. And Phineas is the one that always wants to do something with Ferb.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say. That makes sense.
Bravo. That was good.
But he's got a carpet bag. And I guess it's probably, he's got an invention in his carpet bag, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's going to make an amazing ride that breaks world records.
So we mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but both Disneyland and Walt Disney World have pet cemeteries outside the building. And at Walt Disney World, there's a tombstone for J. Thaddeus Toad.
Real pet cemeteries?
No.
Oh.
So there's the tombstone is in memory of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which
Rest
is
in peace.
no longer in existence at Walt Disney World. There are 3 films that people believe were inspirations for the Haunted Mansion. I found this to be pretty interesting.
The Haunted Mansion.
One of them was the 1946 version, the French version of Beauty and the Beast, La Belle et la Bête. The other one was The Haunting, Robert Wise's 1963 adaptation of the Shirley Jackson novel, The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh.
That's actually a really creepy movie.
And the 1927 version of The Cat and the Canary. Design elements from all 3 movies can be seen in the ride.
Oh, that's neat.
What about R.L. Stein's The Haunting?
I don't think it had anything to do with them.
I think it just missed the cut.
Yeah.
Like maybe by a couple weeks or something.
I think so.
And then, as we already mentioned, Walt Disney Pictures produced a theatrical film adaptation based on the attraction starring Eddie Murphy in November 26, 2003. Here's the thing I didn't know. In July 2010, Guillermo del Toro announced he was set to write and produce a darker film adaptation based on the attraction, promising that it would be both scary and fun. With Del Toro leaving his animated deal with Disney in late 2010 for DreamWorks, there's no word on the status of the project.
How dare he?
People who like scary things call it fun, but it's not fun.
It is too.
It's just scary.
It's extremely fun.
How dare he?
Garrett, I'm taking you to a haunted house.
Let's
No.
let's do it. Let's have a scarier version of the Haunted Mansion movie. Keep Eddie Murphy, but just amp it up like 50 times.
It's that dark, gritty reboot everybody's been waiting for.
Sometimes, whenever I'm hanging out in my room, you guys don't know what I'm doing, but sometimes I turn off my lights and I watch scary videos.
Carrot.
Creepy. And he reads creepy
Congratulations.
pasta.
Hey, we could make a grim haunted mansion.
We could. Let's do it. We didn't really get much into the queue, and this is going a little bit backwards, but as you talked about the interactive queue, before we ever had an interactive queue, the Haunted Mansion queue was still one of the better ones because you still had stuff to look at. You've got the atmosphere of the like wolf baying, in the distance, howling, I guess you would say. Some of the creepy music, and then also you're looking around. And you've got tombstones that are they've all got funny puns on them.
You're immersed.
Yeah, you're immersed in it, and to your right, like if you look up, you see the Haunted Mansion, which the version that you see in Walt Disney World is different. It looks a little more like a New England style, like old Haunted Mansion than what you see
As
in
it
Disneyland.
should at the,
Well, and there's also a hearse, a horse-drawn hearse, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm going to be a Disney mythbuster here. It was not the hearse that carried Walt's body. So
People believe that?
Yeah, that was a myth that I ran into
why
a lot
would
in
they
doing.
ever do that though? Like, what? Who would think? Oh, yes. Let's put the hearse of Walt Disney, someone who people treasure, in Disney World. Let's do it. That's a good idea.
I also saw a theory that it was the hearse that carried Brigham Young's body after he passed away, which that seems
Also
a little
not
bit
true.
more random than
Yeah.
Walt, but also much like Walt, not true.
I really like that effect. So it's got basically you see the harness and there's like a ghost horse.
Yeah.
I really
I
think
like
that's
that.
cool.
And the after hour thing, I pretended to pet the horse.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, as with pretty much any Walt Disney World attraction that helps bring this thing to life, are the cast members. You've got to give a shout out to the cast members.
That whisper in your ear. And
They
make you
whisper.
wanna cry.
They whisper in your ear, make you want to cry.
Weird, creepy stuff. I'm really sorry again. I didn't mean to do that.
I'm telling you, you better watch it.
I think I told this story in the past on the podcast, but one of my experiences being a little Justin riding this ride was we were queued up and we were like almost the next people to go into the stretching room, standing right at the doors. And all of a sudden they burst open like loudly. I think he kicked the door and the cast member comes out and he says, "We need more bodies."
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that made me feel, just peachy.
Right at home.
Yeah.
If I have ever in the Disney College
Program.
I should work at the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
It'd be fitting.
That would be a very cool assignment to have.
And it's cold
They get
in
to
there.
wear cool costumes.
Man, you're like April Ludgate from Parks and Rec.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's
She
like
would take that
the
as a
best
compliment.
ever.
Yeah.
I meant it as a compliment.
She's pretty cool.
Thank
Who, your sister? She is cool.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I
Oh,
am.
you just got sucked
Let's boost
into
to the
something
I meant
you
April.
want to happen.
We got that on tape. Garrett loves his sister. Garrett loves his sister.
What a fool.
All right. Well, I feel like we're kind of winding down here. Landon, did we miss anything on your notes?
Not necessarily. Well, going back to the planning of the Haunted Mansion and how it eventually came to be, there were some theories and ideas that they originally wanted to use that I thought were really cool. Ken Anderson, you already mentioned him earlier, wanted to do something in the vein of Ichabod Crane versus the Headless
Oh
Horseman.
my gosh, yes, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the original pitches. Another one was a sea captain, Captain Gore, kills his wife, and then his wife, the bride, comes back to take revenge on him. And even though they didn't go with that idea, I believe it's at the Disney World version on the very top of the Haunted Mansion, there is a wind chime or wind compass, and it is a ship for Captain Gore.
Oh, cool.
Could the painting of the ship be for Captain
Could be.
Gore?
It very well could be. And in Walt Disney World, in that interactive queue, one of the, bigger monuments or tombstones or whatever is to
It's
Captain
like a
Gore.
sarcophagus kind of thing.
Nice use of the word sarcophagus. I dig
Yeah.
it. And it also has bubbles popping out of it. So that's, another part of the interactive queue. Another one, it was the Blood Family House. And they moved from New Orleans to Disney and killed construction workers while it was being built. And spooky
Hey, that's how
stuff
they
happened.
keep the house up.
Exactly. I told you, of the 999 spirits, one of them knows how to swing a ghost hammer. And then this was my favorite
It's
one.
ghost hammer time.
Uh-oh, here comes the hammer. And then this was my favorite one, and I'm kind of bummed that they didn't go with this route. Originally, it was going to be a wedding for all of the Disney villains.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, so you'd have had like Maleficent, Chernabog in there, like the Headless Horseman. That would have been cool.
That would have been cool.
Wow.
But, I'm happy with the version
I
we
am
ended up
too.
getting.
I like them when they create unique stories specifically for the rides.
I have one thing though.
What's the one
We
thing?
can always use more Ichabod Crane. There isn't enough Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
Like, he was good. That was a good story. I enjoy.
Wait, Johnny Depp was in that
Sleepy Hollow, he was.
and
I'm talking about
Pirates
the
of the
cartoon,
Caribbean.
though.
He
I'm
was.
talking
I
thought
about
it was the
Ichabod
Caribbean.
Crane cartoon.
Here we go again. All right,
Caribbean
strap in for
Queen.
another
Come
30-minute
on.
conversation. Garrett, any final thoughts on the Haunted Mansion? And don't say chicken nuggets.
Spooky.
Okay. What about you, Sam?
I'm pretty sure I rode this
That's your takeaway?
Maybe 3 or 4 times at this point.
several times.
Yeah. McKenna?
Well, I already said my piece about Ichabod Crane. You want me to talk about
No, I was.
Remy the Rat?
No, we're done.
Okay.
Remy has
Headless-
not made it into the Haunted
Listen,
Mansion.
Headless Horseman
oh my
is
gosh,
really cool.
they have rats in there, and it's led by one brave blue rat.
Well, speaking on rats, crows have been called, flying rats.
Yeah.
And one of the original...
No, pigeons are flying rats.
You're
Get it
stepping
right.
on my joke.
I'm going to step all over your joke. How dare you?
Okay, fine. I am a guest in your house, so that was fine.
You are a guest in my house.
But originally, one of the concepts was the ghost host was going to lead you through the mansion as a
By a
raven.
murder of crows?
And show, like, obviously they scrapped that idea, but if you have a keen eye, you can still look and find ravens scattered throughout.
Especially in the graveyard, yeah.
What if...
Glowing eyes
It would have
ravens.
been cool if he was like a murder of crows, though.
You just wanted to say murder of
You
crows.
did.
I do. I love murder of
Oh, we all get it. You're smart, McKenna. You go to school.
Yeah, you don't.
I'm done
Pretty
with school.
sure I rode this ride.
All right. Well, that feels like a good stopping point. So, I think a lot of Disney fans out there have a lot of fondness for the Haunted Mansion. So feel free to give us a shout out this week and share your love and memories of the Haunted Mansion on our Twitter account
The Swiss Family Treehouse.
at Morning Monorail. Or, you can send us email. You can call our voicemail. Call our voicemail from the Haunted Mansion.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
That would be amazing. And then I could maybe remember some of it.
Or interact with us about anything else that you want to talk about. We got more shows coming up. I have some really fun ideas. I'll probably post some things out there, and you can let me know what you think about the ideas. Or if you have show suggestions, we'd love to hear that too. Landon, where can people find you if they want more Landon?
Twitter.com/Landoz, Landoz. That's where you can find the latest from me, 280 characters at a time. I also run a website, buttmunchchips.com. Buttmunchchips.
Sit on your butt.
And munch?
There we go. It's a family experience now. That's where you can find the exclusively posted Game of Thrones talk, a.k.a. Got Talk, where myself and Hunter East break down each episode of HBO's award-winning series, Game of Thrones. We have a complete rundown of episode 7 whenever... not episode 7, season 7, and whenever season 8 comes back, Hunter and I will return. But in the meantime, I invite you to head over to the iTunes store and search for Near Fall Radio. That's where myself and Justin Krutzinger, a guy you might be familiar with, talk about the sweet science of professional wrestling. So if you're into dudes in stretchy pants fake fighting each other, give that a listen. Also, thoughts and prayers with Roman Reigns, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding. Wow.
Yeah, he was the Universal Champion, had to vacate the title because he has leukemia. Rough stuff, man. So thoughts and prayers from the Monorail family to Roman Reigns or Joe Awani, I believe is his real name.
I think that's really tragic, and hopefully he recovers really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, Roman's been booked strong, and I see him going over leukemia here.
I think
You
you
know,
can do
the
it.
fact of the matter is he's had this for quite a while. And
11
he's
years.
a tough dude.
Yeah.
Like, he is pretty tough. Now I get why he doesn't do great moves, though.
Mom, he has
Take a shot at him, why don't you? Good grief. Okay.
I'm just kidding. I like Roman. I mean, it's
Well,
fine.
anyway. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for listening once again. Always a pleasure to be here with you on a beautiful Monday morning. So for this full house, McKenna, Garrett, Sam, Landon, and Justin, I just want to say, hurry back, hurry back.
And bring your death certificate.
I think I rode this ride.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for riding with us today. We hope you enjoyed the journey, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Until then, we want to hear from you. Send us questions, comments, and suggestions on Twitter at Morning Monorail. Our email address is mondaymorningmonorail@gmail.com. You can also call our voicemail at 407-917-2144. As we approach the station, gather your belongings and please watch your step as you exit.
See y'all.